I mean, yeah, the lighting is crazy. But anyway, on that note, welcome to the Hospitality Podcast, well, the Hospitality Chat Podcast. My name is Mehdi Rahman. We have Joanna Oliveira and Matthew Drummond-Poynter, and we have a guest, Zamil. And we're looking into how social media helps the restaurant industry and, what we can do to help the restaurant industry through the use of social media. I mean, it's an interesting topic. I mean, all topics are interesting, but it's a one that is more, how to say it, closer to both the industry, but also to everyday life, because social media is almost like the norm. Like we all been
Hmm.
on, like, say, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, and also even YouTube, like being that mainstream, like, video platform that has the elements of social media networking, if you know. I mean, it's one of those not kind of like the almost like the online. It's like basically society's been more pushed into the online space and forums. But I think, considering that's like society being almost digitized, I think to almost take advantage of the individual around the world who uses social media and whatnot, and having a bigger scope, it's a potential for other restaurants to make use of it to attain a new type of market. I mean, we'll look into the enhancement of customer experience. Wouldn't you say, Zamil?
Yeah, I would say since social media has become a lot more mainstream, I think companies are trying to um, they're trying to fit in with the new audience, such as I think Wendy's. If you've seen Wendy's Twitter account, it's like it's just full of memes, and I think they're really in touch with their audience. Uh, I'm pretty sure a lot of other companies are doing that, but I think
Yeah.
Wendy's is like the big one. That's
I,
like I feel like someone young is in charge of that Twitter account.
I mean, they kind of started off the they pushed customer interaction to a whole new dimension. It felt so much like it almost feels like very personal connection to your customer base, especially when they kind of roast you entirely, like
Yeah,
on a whole new basis. Trying to kind of have one up you and everything. Like any insulting comments, they throw it right back at you, and I kind of love it. It just kind of shows that then it's not too corporate to be full of themselves, to be at a point where you just don't. It's just kind of sense of like it doesn't feel so like the faceless corporation feeling that a lot of people would have to these
yeah,
franchises, like especially in the restaurant industry. In fact, they're becoming. It feels like it's much more human. Like it kind of shows like we all humans at the end of it. It's not like a robot controlling your social media account. It feels more, almost like it feels more real. I think being real is a attribute that is still needed in society, and I feel like Wendy's had that element into their applied that element of being real into their customer experience
I
through
think
using.
all of them do, because especially on Twitter, since you mentioned Twitter, they have feuds against each other. I've seen like like the whole, is it trend threads of just the different restaurants talking back at each other, and they just slam each other to the ground. It's just hilarious because they know exactly what they're doing because it brings people over to see, oh, why is this like McDonald's and Burger King talking
Yeah.
trash to each other, and it just brings more people to it. And a lot of us like Gen Zs like just love
Mm,
drama, so it just they entice more people to come in, even if they're just joking and like talking
yeah,
trash about each other. But there's so many people that get to like retweet and
yeah.
replies and like look at this.
Mhm.
So I think there is a great business strategy to just talk amongst each other as companies. I don't know if they do it on purpose or not, but it's
I mean,
funny to see the
I'm pretty
interaction
sure it's a
like
marketing
that.
strategy. I think.
It
yeah.
has to be, yeah.
I mean, it has to. It definitely would be, because people would be going to the restaurants that are feuding amongst each other, like in social media, almost like in the form of their marketing strategy, which is absolutely genius in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That they could be like a lot of customers would be like, I want to go to each of those restaurants that they're beefing with each other, ironically beefing with burger like joints, like, so it's kind of like they want to end up want to review which place is one of the best out of all the places that they are competing or fighting amongst each other, on social media. It's like, but that's like a genius thing. They'll end up want to visit each of those places to determine which is right. But then those visits, the purchases, everything like that, their hospitality that they offer through each customer that visited, from looking at the social media account feud that is going on. They want to
Mm-hmm.
know, oh, who is right. and that's like a way of like kind of getting attached to, oh, who is better or whatnot. It makes you wonder. It's like, man, Wendy's. It's like, if for me, example, it was like how it, from a personal standpoint, with how that marketing responded to me. It's like, I wonder what is Wendy's like for them to be so bold. It makes you curious, and I think that's the right way to go about it.
I had Wendy's, it's actually great. It tastes better than KFC,
Yeah.
if I say so myself. I'm starting a feud now in the comments. Everyone's gonna come at me. But like, I had a Wendy's burger because they do, I
Yeah.
think, mainly chicken, but they also have normal cheeseburgers. Bro, it was huge, and the fries were amazing too. It's so I can feel the heat coming towards me if I keep talking. I
We at
love
OrderPin
KFC.
maintain neutrality in the fast food
Yes,
wars.
we
Don't
do.
come for us.
Yes, neutrality is what we strive for. I mean, everyone has a place in the industry, that's for sure.
Yeah, no.
But it's this example that I feel like restaurant owners that we at OrderPin are trying to say, like, these kind of elements of the way you use social media is so much more important now, considering that, I mean, we talked about reviews, how you respond to online criticism and feedback, but this is like a whole new way of marketing, especially where you kind of get, it's almost like feeling like, oh, we all, like, the average customer or the average person may feel, that little hint of pettiness and vindictiveness at times. We all feel that, but I feel like they kind of show like, oh, they're just like the rest of us, and it's such a relatable vibe. And I think also what you say when you talk about, say, how you experience at Wendy's was like, I mean, the use of social media can bring customers in to other places, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, especially because they listen to their customers. They use social media to listen to people, and is great because obviously the normal restaurants and all big brands, they use like Google reviews and Yelp. Is it Yelp that does the other reviews? They use those types of websites instead of social media.
Yeah.
But these big brands just go on social media and like, do you like this? Do you not like this? Like, people actually choose between different products. I feel like I saw McDonald's saying that they're gonna take out breakfast burritos.
Breakfast wraps, they said.
Yeah. So people in the comments were going mad. So maybe they won't, maybe they will, but they listen to their customers. I feel like it's like same with the movies, like when the Sonic movie, the first trailer, Sonic looked terrible. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But then
that
they
was
listened
horrible.
to everyone, and then they changed it, and now he looks like normal Sonic like he did in the games. So
Yeah.
like they listen, these big companies listen to their customers through social media, which is really helpful to them and to us because we feel kind of connected with these big brands,
Yeah. It's almost like the new forum to reviews, wouldn't you agree, Matthew? Like, when we talked about reviews before in website promotion as well, but in the first episode as well. But I feel like the reviews are more pushed into social media now. Like, a lot of people are more voicing out their opinions on social media itself to show to other potential customer base, and almost showing it to different types of people, showing to different types of audiences and marketing, and whatnot. Sometimes a good or bad review is even more imperative in the social media, because word spreads, but in the online world of social media, word spreads fast, and almost like termites, instantly it can either, in a bad review, feels like termites, it instantly chips away at every single bit of wood you have left, or it could be the best thing where it just overflows you with with money and everything. So
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas reviews are quite often posted on like Google and other like review places that kind of accumulate all of these. A lot of these kinds of now players happen on social media and such, like where people just literally say, I don't know, had a burger at this place, it was terrible, or had a burger at this place and wow, it was amazing, that kind of thing. And you can't like formally like find these unless you're really on these spaces and engaging with them effectively, and therefore those reviews might slip under the radar unnoticed, so you won't know that you're kind of accumulating a lot of these negative reviews, but the user base place is absolutely going to find out, because about 58%, I believe, of British people, at least as of 2018, numbers probably even higher now, engage with some form of social media on a regular basis. That's a lot of people to hear kind of negative or positive, if the reviews are good publicity. And knowing about those reviews and what people think about your restaurant by being in a social media space and established enough to the point where you're probably going to see it and people might like post these things in response to your post is critical to kind of receiving a lot of this kind of feedback. You can also do things, as you mentioned earlier, where you kind of bring in the users through kind of like your social media conduct, posting about what you're going to do or such like, or new items, or what do you think about this, etc. And at that point, it kind of like, it kind of makes responding and reviewing a bit more kind of fun almost, and a bit more kind of engaging, because it's almost like your users are kind of engaging with you, and so it kind of makes it more likely that you're going to receive that kind of feedback when you ask for it. All of this is kind of like very important and extremely critical, because as you say, these things will spread throughout social media spaces. Restaurants, of course, previously relied on word of mouth a lot to kind of like get their marketing out there, and word of mouth is still very important. It's just a lot of it's now happening on social media as opposed to like in-person word of mouth. And so yeah, absolutely, making sure that like the word of mouth that's going around about you is positive rather than negative is critical, and having a platform on social media where you can kind of add your own voice to that discourse is critical in kind of shaping it to the point where it's kind of what your restaurant wants.
And I think it's also important as well, I was thinking about, is about, you know, when it's critical to about the voice of the customers in particular. I feel like it's normal to be like some items that not be liked. They're always going to be hit and misses, like on people's preferences. There's sometimes when the customer gives a bad review or bad critique online, it's like, you know, it's based off their own individual experiences. You must, you know, use that as little bits to improve, like, you know, trying to almost like refine your approach to your hospitality service and your food service as well. And that's key and important. But I can't stress enough of how important it is on how you use social media, because the amount of reviews, like even like watching like say television shows, like they do cooking shows, or like, you know, like those similar to like Kitchen Nightmares, or like, you know, or this show I watched, Bar Rescue, like the worst, like you cannot be like using social media in the most worst way, like almost taking it as like a personal attack and almost attacking the customer for their opinion, because it's what they say, it's that part of the industry says customer is always right. And I feel like if you almost attack the customer in any sort of way and with their criticism, which may be rightly so, that could almost kill your business, or if anything, bring you down to a lower depth, and maybe it's almost like an instant turn off, just seeing an owner being too overtly kind of like critical of the customers that make their own opinions about the restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, how you kind of voice yourself on social media is kind of a representation of your company, and so how you conduct yourself, how you leave comments on reviews, and how you the kind of voice in which you post in general. All of these you should be keeping in mind as how you want your company to be look and be perceived. We can see this with Wendy's, where they've kind of got this very kind of like sassy, kind of like in kind of vaguely insulting and irreverent tone on their marketing. You might want something a bit more kind of formal if you're going for like a fine dining or whatever. But everything you do should absolutely on social media should absolutely be reinforcing the kind of like brand image that you want to project of your company. And I can't think of any brand image that relies on being insulting and kind of angry when responding to users. That's just not something you want to avoid. That is something you want to avoid. Full stop.
I mean, for sure. I mean, a negative review ain't going to be the end of the world. But if you highlight the reviews and say you acted upon the feedback, wouldn't you say it would increase that amount of humility and honesty between you and the customers? I think it would show like a side of the restaurant where, oh, the hospitality is key and number one, alongside with the food itself and what you're providing for your customers as well. I think that's is extremely important as well. Like, you know, it's always in synergy. The hospitality and the food has to be in together in synergy. And if you act upon the feedback, I feel like it's a way of building your promotion to your restaurant. And not only that, build the sense of loyalty to your restaurant, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, it's a perfect way to kind of like build loyalty, showing that kind of you're responding to viewer feedback and such like. It particularly helps because we humans, we're emotional creatures, and the idea of like a redemption story of a restaurant taking in feedback and turning itself around is something that I think a lot of people would love to see. And absolutely, it tends to build loyalty. And loyalty is, of course, essential because we kind of build our backs off of kind of those loyal returning customers providing a constant revenue stream as opposed to kind of like customers going in and out, so your financials are going zigzagging up and down depending on how much random influx you get. um, Other ways that you could, I guess, build loyalty and consistent engagement in this regard might be kind of like doing like promotions and such like for like your long-time viewers or your engaged social media users and such like. Just, you know, add like codes or vouchers or something like that on there.
Or
Giveaways, maybe even if you have the cash to splash out for that kind of thing. All of these kind of
yeah,
strive to kind of build an almost more community feel
yeah,
around your kind of social media page and regular engagement, which of course is critical for keeping your social media
yeah,
going up in engagement and getting more word of mouth out about your restaurant
yeah.
to get more people actually
Mhm.
in the doors.
It's
I
like
mean,
what McDonald's does
yeah,
with a monopoly each year, because it brings so much more people to come buy your products. So you get those stickers from the drinks and fries and whatever. So you have the table and like you can win either free food, or some people actually win the TVs or cars or whatever, which is one in a
yeah,
million chance. But it's so many people. I've seen so many of my friends that get excited. I think it's like April times when they do the Monopoly game, because I've got like free food and I'm like, bro, that's amazing. I don't actually have to spend because I have that tiny ticket that says I won like a McFlurry or 6-piece chicken nuggets or whatever. So it just brings people back because people want to see if they can actually win the big
yeah,
prizes, even though 90%
yeah,
of us know we won't. But still, you get free
yeah.
food minimum, so you just get excited over it.
I mean, I remember around the Euros, like the Euros last year, I think it was there was this restaurant called Bim's in my area. Like they did this kind of like jackpot, like a almost like a jackpot wheel where
Slot,
if it's like a
yeah.
jackpot slot, you're playing. It's like a slot machine where if you get a particular roll, say three, like say cheeseburgers, you win a cheeseburger, and you can get it for free. So you just basically get the code that will give you, and you get and give it to the restaurant nearby, and also even a lot of restaurants in say East London that I've seen from either Ilford Lane to Green Street, they often a lot of the restaurants there are using social media and almost promoting their restaurant through their stories that they post on Instagram, and as well as take screen almost like adding stories from other people's accounts that visited their restaurant into their social media stories. So it's kind of like the customers are also part of the promotion themselves through their satisfaction of the restaurant itself through more of a visual in a visual point of view rather than written
Yeah, it's the tags. Everyone tags the restaurants they
tags.
were at. So then either the restaurant acts upon it and then posts on their story saying, oh,
Yeah.
this person came in and they tagged me.
Mhm.
So like we do it as like, I don't know what it is. We just do it because we basic and we just want to post food before we eat it. And then we tag the the restaurants. It makes more people like your friends, maybe they never
Yeah.
been to that restaurant, so they click on that tag, they go to the restaurant. If the restaurant sees your post,
Mhm.
they post it. So it's like extra change of like followers, if you want to say it. If
Yeah.
someone just likes you, or like they go to your profile to see what you do, whatever. Obviously, I don't think people get followers when restaurants share your
Yeah.
stories, but they do because people will see the tag on your stories. People that haven't been in that restaurant will go to the restaurant if you say something good about it. Obviously, if you say something that, if you say that you give a bad review in your story, even if the restaurant doesn't see it, your friends will, so be less people going.
Mhm.
So it's a double-edged sword. It's legit up to you. If you liked it, you say you liked it, people will go. If you don't, you say you don't, then people
I
are not
mean,
even gonna click on that tag.
I mean, I feel like though there's one way of good reviews and bad reviews. It's very more like it's how to say it's really such an extreme way. Like if they had a really good service, like a really really good one, they'll end up writing a good review. If they had a really bad experience, they write a bad review. And it's I don't know. It feels like it's very on the extreme opposite ends of the spectrum, you'd say. So would you agree, Zamil? Like, you know, the kind of opposite spectrums when it comes to review writing.
Yeah, I think what was it? You want to take account everyone's point of view about your restaurant, but at the same time, what was I gonna say?
It's like a balance
Yeah, it's like a balance.
between good and bad reviews. You either gloat yourself on the good reviews and forget about the bad ones so you never change, or you just look at the bad reviews and
Yeah.
think, oh, I'm doing something wrong because they
Yeah.
don't look at the good reviews. So it's a balance that people, mostly restaurant owners, have to do. Obviously, the big companies, they have millions of reviews, either good or bad, so they're probably stressed, but I don't think they care too much.
If you want to go to like a restaurant's website, they usually put like always the good reviews first, like on like, oh, this person said this 5 stars with their picture and their quote, the quote of their text. Most of the time you never see bad reviews on there. And it's like, you know, people are a little, oh, why are they always showing the good ones?
Yeah, I mean, not only that, I think you touched upon something that we talked about before, but yeah, I feel like it's just I feel like the reviews I mean, it depends on the customer's average take in the month, or the, you know, the annual the amount of money they earn from annually as well as monthly. Like if their sales have dropped so much and the bad reviews pour in, it's, you know, the correlation should be much more. It's more like not baseless at all entirely of the reviews. It's more like you may need to take into heavy account of the reviews that are pouring out, including in connection to the potential bad stream you would have. And I feel like it's more imperative to act upon the feedback, but also to show that you've acted upon the feedback. I mean, like a post on social media saying, due to the inadequate standards that we have placed upon the customers, we'd like to apologize, and we'd like to offer like a discount for their meals as a way of saying thank you for the feedback. I think it's a way of like building up your loyalty and also promoting the restaurant as well. Like, I think it works intangible to each other, where it benefits you but also benefits the customers as well. So I feel like it's such a, like I say the word symbiotic. You help them, you like, they can't help without each other in the sense. You want to build that kind of,
they need each other.
Yeah, I mean, along with that, it's about brand advocacy, you know, like it's all about, like, with the brand image, like social media and branding is such a almost like a staple between each other. Like, you have to, you know, anyone's taking their pictures on the meals, and, you know, with social media accounts, it's potential brand advocates. Like, they're willing to almost like be your flag bearers of your restaurant for every post that they do. So I feel, I mean, like, you know, Instagram for me, I think, is such a big like almost like a big marketing board. Like, a lot of posts I see on Instagram in particular, say, or Snapchat, they often promote a lot of restaurants promote, you know, do such heavy promotions on their restaurants in particular. And I think the social engagement is so heavy on Twitter in particular, like we talked about before. I mean, what would you say, like, about Facebook as well? It's one of the, also a crucial site in its own right, because a lot of the restaurants, like 72% of them had like have done a lot of like retail and restaurant decisions were based off the reviews coming from what the customers have commented, also the images that they shared, and also the amount of people who have seen the posts as well on that platform. Wouldn't you agree, like, Matthew?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Facebook, I believe, is the third most used third most visited site after Google and YouTube. These sites actually are visited more than Wikipedia at this point. What also makes Facebook quite nice as a kind of marketing platform is that there's quite a wide market of demographics, as opposed to, say, a lot of like other social media kind of stuff. It focuses more on kind of usually younger audiences. Instagram is kind of more millennial focused. TikTok obviously is very kind of like young person Zoomer kind of focused. But Facebook, you kind of cast a kind of wider net, all the way from like the elderly right down to millennials, and some Zoomers that admittedly like kind of like really younger chaps aren't really on Facebook nowadays. Um, but that kind of gives you like a wide platform to which getting any kind of marketing on Facebook is therefore going to reap massive rewards. If you were to focus on specifically one social media platform to
It won't
kind
be
of
enough.
advocate your brand on, I
Yeah,
would
no.
definitely recommend Facebook unless you have like an overwhelming demographic in one particular subsection, just because of the kind of general nature of it. Also, Facebook has a posting style that can be quite nice to people who kind of don't have necessarily the time to social media market multiple times a day. Twitter's great, but you kind of need to be posting about 10 times a day is sometimes what some marketing recommendations are. As most other platforms as well kind of have a more frequent posting structure or use different forms of content like TikTok, which you might just not have the equipment or ability to kind of adopt that particular style. Meanwhile, Facebook, you can run the gamut all the way from images to long form text posts, all the way to just reposting any kind of like blogs or articles about promotions that you've got on your website and such like. That way you can drive traffic over there. It's just generally a good all-purpose social media marketing tool that I absolutely think any of our listeners right now, if they don't already have a Facebook page for their business, they should go ahead and do it.
I mean, the standard social media that platforms a lot of restaurants would use is three usually, like 3 to 4, like say Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, and even now if you can add a fifth, TikTok now. Like TikTok is now becoming a much more bigger and much more used social media. It's like an upcoming almost similar to Vine, if you agree, like back then a few years back, like Vine, but it's also like almost like that resurgence with the app TikTok. So I think having at least 4 to 5 of your four to five social media platforms would be enough to almost like capture a whole wide demographics, because I know a much older generation would use Facebook, to the youngest generation would be using TikTok. So you want to have capture the entire scope. You want to attract as many people, depending on the style of your restaurant. But if it's catered to families and many of different generations, you'd want to capture, say, using all 5 of those social media platforms.
Like they don't need Twitter because Twitter is more
Yeah.
of a text platform, but definitely they would need Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, so you can get like 3 different generations of people going to your restaurant. 90% of the people like my age, because I'm 22, we use Instagram the most. At least from all my friends, we use Instagram the most, and then some of us use TikTok. Almost none of them have Facebook anymore. So obviously, if you want to cater to every single person or have more people coming in, I would say Instagram is one of the most used out of all of the generations out there. Um, and obviously, it's mostly pictures and videos, so you can really show off your dishes and your area and like show off everything you want about your restaurant and people to go and see it. Especially now because you can put filters. Obviously, putting filters on it, it's good. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with using filters, but obviously you can't use it to an extreme that you change completely your dish and then people go and it's like completely different. But I would say definitely Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok would be a good thing. I don't say YouTube would be a good thing because I
It
don't.
depends. I
Well,
think it depends on the marketing strategy you would do with
yeah,
YouTube. Like if it's video promotion as well, like a lot of people would use like video based, like videographies of the interior of the restaurants, as well as almost like food photography and videography they would do. And on touch with your Instagram, but I think there's a statistics that would say about 18 to 34-year-olds make up for the biggest share of the Instagram audience from October 2021. It was founded by the Hootsuite. So I think, and also it's like and it's pretty much the audience as well. It's pretty much evenly between males and females. So, and all other demographics. I think everyone has a fair and equal opportunity, I think, to be attracted to your restaurant. So I feel like despite the other 3 social medias and 3 to 5 social media accounts there, Instagram does seem to be like the main, almost like the big prime playing field for a restaurant to build up their brand, as well as promoting their restaurant, and also trying to bring up their marketing promotion in their restaurant as well in particular. So
Yeah.
I mean, in addition to everything that we said, I think the best way to end off the message of this kind of like whole episode is this. I think social media, promoting your restaurant in particular, is such an easy and quick tool rather than worrying about, you know, such extensive and heavy research. I think despite, depending on your area and what it and you know, the cultural vibes and everything, the cultural background, as well as the ethnic background, as well as your age and your target audience, everything like that into account. Sometimes, rather than going extremely heavily on using, say, complex marketing tools, sometimes social media is the most easiest tool, cheap and easy way to start off your marketing. But it's all about adopting different strategies, and hopefully maybe in the next episodes we want to look into how we can prove to maximize engagement of any kind of, I mean, in the near future, of course. But I think that's the way to go about it. I think it's a good place to start with promoting your restaurant, is through the use of social media. And I think that's all the time we had for. Thanks, Zamil, for coming by for the episode. I actually enjoyed hearing your points and everything. And Joanna, Matthew, nice as always to talk to you guys on the podcast. And I'm going to sign off here. This is the Hospitality Chat podcast. My name is Mehdi Rahman, Joanna Oliveira, Matthew Drummond-Poynter, and our guest Zamil. I would say thank you and goodbye.